there, my fellow comrades. It is Soldierdude Gaming here once again, and we are back with yet another Geek Time video. And I am terribly sorry for the lack of uploads. I've just been literally just gaming on my freaking Nintendo GameCube and just having a whole lot of childhood flashbacks. But aside from that, we're back with another Geek Time video, and today we're going to be talking about a rather special vehicle. Many of you already know what this is due to the title and, you know, all that. But yes, we're going to be talking about a rather special vehicle of World War II. A vehicle so powerful that it makes the Karl Gerät Thor 600mm siege mortar look like its younger brother. A weapon so massive, it puts the Gustav railway gun to shame. What is that vehicle you're wondering about? It's none other than the P.1000 Ratte. Now, before we get into this episode of Geek Time and talk about one of the biggest vehicles that have ever been created, I'm going to give a shout out to the person responsible for suggesting this, and that is a good subscriber of mine known as Tank Destroyer 467. Thank you very much. And let's go ahead and check this thing out, shall we? The date is 1941, and Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of Russia, is underway, and the Germans were steam-throwing through Russia like it was just a Tuesday stroll. But that is until they started running into many problems with their tanks. Now you see, there was nothing really bad about the German tanks. They were well armed and armored, and at this point they were very well tanked. It's just that they could not stand up against the absolute might of the Russian armor. Very, very powerful guns. For example, this KV-1 that you're seeing now has a very, very powerful gun and very, very sturdy armor. And the German tanks could barely do anything to these things. The only way they could really take these things out was either flanking around the tank or direct artillery bombardment. And this created many, many problems for the German tanks. They were constantly getting taken out, and they really only had one solution to stop that, and that was the Flak 88, which was an anti-aircraft gun. But apart from that, the German tanks stood no chance against the Russian tanks, although these tanks were quite rare. Sooner or later, the German high command took notice of this, including Adolf Hitler. Hitler was at this point all about, not about decisive tactics and trying to overrun the force with numerous enemies. He tried to go big or go home when it comes to tanks. So he would order the production of the Tiger, which would be a new series of heavy tanks for Germany that would be fitted with 88mm guns. But naturally, he thought not even those were good enough. Eventually, a well-known German company saw this, and that company was Krupp, which was a well-known German company used for making motorized vehicles for the military. And in the month of June in 1942, Edward Grote, the person in charge of the Krupp company, submitted a design for a war machine to Hitler. And that tank was none other than the P.1000 Ratte Landkreuzer, or in German, Land Cruiser. And to no surprise, Hitler was very, very interested in the project, as he was the man that he was obsessed with the phrase of go big or go home. Unfortunately, the plans and drawings of this sheer machine have been forever lost in time. However, we do know this. The P.1000 Ratte would have been the biggest tank ever made and produced, weighing at a whopping 1,000 tons, hence the name P.1000. The tank would be powered by around 8 marine diesel engines, and it would actually go a fairly decent speed for the size of a tank, 25 miles an hour. As you could probably infer from the massive size of this tank, it had a very, very overwhelming armament. The main gun that mostly sticks out on this tank is the two 280mm naval guns, which was actually brought off from a ship. As if this tank didn't already have a bunch of cannons already, they also put in a hull-mounted 128mm gun, the same ones that were put in the turrets in the back of the tank. On top of all the 7 cannons that were mounted on this thing, the Ratte also had from 2 to 4 Flak 38 anti-aircraft guns, which could absolutely decimate any approaching aircraft. Now, here's the funny part about the Ratte. it would have been clear to impossible to make this hunk of junk in 1943. And let me tell you why. The first big thing, I think, the reason why the rat would never have been made was because the United States and the British were constantly bombing German cities, factories, and other key complexes, and especially cities. And this took a heavy toll on German production and morale. And the bombings intensified, especially after the U.S. joined the war after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And the bombing runs would only get worse. So if the rat was even in production, the factory that it would probably be in would have been bombed to pieces, due to the fact that, again, bombing runs over Germany were literally happening every single day, day on end. The Americans would attack by day, the British by night. Anything that was a big industrial complex or a big city, it was not safe from the massive tons of bombs that would be raining from the skies over Germany. And even if this thing was ever made against the odds, it would probably get instantly bombed by Allied planes just because it was a massive target. And this would actually greatly lower the German morale just because it was just such a big defeat, especially Hitler's morale. So in all, the P.1000 Ratte, it would have been very unlikely that this tank would have ever been made, just because of the fact that the Germans were very low on supplies, the Allied forces were constantly bombing German cities and factories, and severely cutting off the Germans' ability to make any really good parts for their tanks. In fact, the main reason why they suffered so much in the late war with their tanks was because they didn't have the proper resources to make their tanks, such as the Panthers, the Tigers, all of that, which is why they had such big mechanical issues. And so, I think, yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this video. So if you guys do want to see something else I want to talk about, put it down in the comment section. It could be a gun, it could be a tank, it could be a ship, it could be a plane, anything. Put it down in the comments. And, yeah, I do appreciate you guys watching this video. If you want to see some more, do be sure to hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications bell, and maybe like the video. And until then, I'll see you guys next time.